Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a really fun video. I'm going to rewind back to when I was in law school and I'm going to tell you how I landed my big law firm offers. So if you guys are returning, thank you so much for continuing to watch my videos. If you are new here, hello, my name is Sephora. I'm a licensed attorney and a law school coach. And I'm not going to do my full spiel because you're going to learn about some of it in this video. So I'm going to be taking you through both my 1L year and my 2L year because I did big law interviews both years. So let me get comfortable. Like I said, well, I didn't say it yet this video, but I say it to my others. This is not scripted. I come up with the title of the video and then I kind of just talk during my recording. So it may take me here, it may take me there. We'll just see. But to jump in, so when I first was applying to law school, I actually did not know I wanted to do big law, or big law was something that I would be interested in because I didn't know about it, right? And so this is why I'm like, this information should be more available to more people so people can make more informed decisions, right? Because I wish I had this information when I was applying to law school, because it is important when you are thinking about what you hope your career to be or what you want to do post law school, right? So I learned about big law after I submitted my applications. And this is, again, I feel like I say it all the time, but this is gonna have to be another video about my entire just application journey. But learned about big law after I submitted my applications. However, my number one school was always Georgetown. And so I got into Georgetown, I was going there. So fast forward to me starting at Georgetown, right? And so I know about big law at this point because I found out after I submitted my applications, but before I chose the law school I wanted to go to. So knowing that I wanted to do big law, I knew that Georgetown puts a substantial number of their students into big law. So I know I had a pretty good chance as long as I wasn't like at the bottom of my class. But just me being a natural overachiever, like I'm sure many of you who are watching this channel are, because so many of my clients are overachievers and just, wanting the best for themselves and what success looks like in their own terms. I was aiming to do well in law school either way. So being at the bottom of the class was not even on my radar. But so anyway, I was always about like, okay, how am I going to get this big law job? What am I going to do to give myself the best chance of landing the big law job? And for me, it wasn't just a big law job. It was at a good law firm where I would have autonomy over the type of work I did. I would have autonomy over like where I worked. Like so it's just like varying things, right? And so what I did when I was a 1L, and this is what I also recommend to my clients to do, clients in my monthly coaching community, is 1, grades, 2, network. And network is a very close second. I always say it, when your grades cannot get you in the door, your networking will do the rest for you, okay? You may not be able to control your grades, but you can control your network. So for me, it was all about making sure I did as good as I can grades-wise and learning how I could perform to a point where I was at the top of my class, but also whenever there was a networking opportunity in the firm, any firm that I was interested in, or any big law firm really at that point, because when you're a 1L, you can't be picky. I was also at that networking event. So what that looks like for me was I had a schedule, and every law student should have a schedule. You should have a schedule to manage how your study hours, because you need to be studying a certain amount of hours per credit hour. That's a whole nother video. And you also need to be making sure that you're fitting in time for your networking, that you're fitting in time for everything else, right? And you're studying the right things, doing the right things, talking to the right people, outlining, etc., right? And so I had a schedule that I followed, and every time I learned of a networking event, I would put it into my schedule. And if I was supposed to be, networking events usually happened around started at 6 or 7 p.m. So if there was a networking event happened to run into study hours, I would simply move those study hours, and I could because I had a schedule, and so I could just move it somewhere else. So I was networking like crazy, right? And so when I went to these networking events, what I would do was I would have my list of the firms who were at the networking event, which typically whoever's hosting it will give it to you unless it's just one firm hosting it and you're there. But you'll have a list of the firms, and then I would specifically like star, or like I would know which firms in particular I needed to go talk to, right? So if it was, there's different types of networking events. So if there's tabled networking events, then I'm like, okay, here are the 5 firms who have tables here, and I need to make sure I get to every single one of these tables because I'm interested in their firm. If it's not a table networking event, so it's just like a standing like networking reception, then it would be like, okay, here are these people from these firms that I need to go talk to. Or if it was just like a singular firm hosting the event, then I wouldn't have a list. I would just kind of try to mix it up between associates and partners that I talk to. But so that's what I would do, right? And so when I'm going to these tables, these people, these events, I'm just having a conversation with them. Like I'm literally just having a conversation with them, right? And I'm asking them about the firm, asking them about their practice area. I'm asking them about their practice group, just literally having conversations. And that's all I'm doing. And typically at the end, I would always ask for whoever I spoke to, I would ask for their business card. And usually they'll have it and they'll give it to me. I should have gotten it for this video, and maybe I need to go get it and show y'all my stack of business cards. Listen, thick, okay? Thick, because I was collecting these business cards. So once I collected these business cards, within a day or two after the networking event, I would follow up through email with everyone I spoke with and thank them for attending the event and just recap some of the things that we talked about in the email, and then express interest to continue talking with them or meeting with them at some point in the future. So I was doing that in my 1L fall semester. So then obviously this is like intermixed with making sure I was doing what I needed to do to get grades. Spoiler alert, I did well. Anyway, the other thing that I did was I'm also working on my big law application materials. Big law firms have now like sped up their recruiting cycle. So they've opened up their applications even earlier now than when they did when I was in law school. But either way, I was working on materials. So like I wasn't taking away time from studying for law school. I was essentially taking away from my free time, but it wasn't really taking away from my free time because it didn't take me that long. Like I did it over a period of months. It wasn't like I just got it all done in 2 weeks. So I was working on my cover letter, working on my personal statement. I'm working on my resume to the extent that it needs to be updated, right? Which is really at that point just adding your law school. So I'm working on that over those period of months, and then also getting it reviewed. So I went to OCS, that's obviously Career Services. I asked my mentors at Georgetown, so whether that be like my BOLSA mentor who was assigned to me, or my RISE mentor, which is my Georgetown's pre-law program that I did, to review my materials for me and give me feedback. So I got feedback from about 3 different people at minimum. And then BOLSA also had like other career events where we could get our resume reviewed. I always went to those. Like I said, I was not skipping anything career. That's what you're in law school for. I wasn't skipping it, okay? So I took every opportunity I could to get my stuff reviewed to make sure that it was gonna be up to par. So that's what I'm doing in the fall, right? And so one of the other things that I was doing in my 1L fall was I was creating my law school list. It was an Excel sheet of literally it was around 180 firms on that Excel sheet. And essentially what the Excel sheet had was the name of the firm, what they paid, which was typically market, location that I was interested in, which was DC. And then sometimes I put DC/New York. And then and do they take 1Ls? Because not all firms take 1Ls. And then ranking was on there, like vault ranking, which to an extent doesn't really matter, but maybe that's a whole nother video. I think that's all, but it was an Excel sheet listing all that information with like 180 firms, right? So that's the other thing that I was working on during the fall, during the free time, along with my application material. So then December comes around, finals come around, I do finals ends, bam, I'm starting to apply. Okay. The minute finals are done, I am hitting submit. So I just work my way down the sheet. I just work my way down that Excel sheet, and I go to the firm's website and I apply. Something to note is a lot of those firms, and at this point in time, these are not like diversity positions. These are just 1L positions, which are very few and far between. And even now, they still are few and far between. It's very hard to get a summer associate position as a 1L, because whereas firms will take between like 30 and 50 2Ls, they'll take 1 or 2 1Ls, okay? Like 1 or 2. So typically what I realized what ends up happening is, so when I applied or when I would go to one, they'd ask for either a combination of a cover letter and a personal statement. So I would have to then do some combination of my personal statement and cover letter, or they would ask for like a 500 word personal statement. So I had to make a separate version, or they would ask for like a 250 word, 750, whatever, right? So as I was going through the list of firms and looking at the different requirements, I was modifying as I was going and then saving those so I could have that template, and then continuing to go through. So did I personalize it? Yes, it was personalized for every single firm. So like I said, I had my template that I started off with, but then I would always go in and like personalize it for the firm. So I would look up something I was interested in, or like a practice group that I was interested in, or whatever. And then I would add it to the cover letter or add it to the personal statement or whatever it may be. And also, of course, if you're submitting a cover letter, it needs to have the firm's information on it. And so I was doing that the minute finals ended. And let's just say that's December 6th. I took a break around Christmas time because I think I went on vacation for a week, and then continued applying in January. I want to say that I got my first interview request right after New Year's. By 1L year, right after New Year's was my first interview request. And then like kind of after that, the interview requests just started rolling in. So I was interviewing pretty much the majority of January. And this is also, of course, when 1L second semester picks back up and starts again. So I was interviewing, and the firms fly you out. So I was flying if I was interviewing for a New York firm or whatever it may be. The first firm I interviewed with was also the first firm to give me my offer. What is important here is that I did not wait for my grades to apply. Like I told you, I started applying the minute finals were over in December. I wasn't waiting for my grades to apply. And so a lot of my interviews came in even before grades came out. And so once I got my first offer, my first big law firm offer, I stopped applying. I stopped applying to other law firms because that was an offer I would take. So I want to say like out of the 180, the point at which I stopped applying, I was probably at 60. I had probably applied to 60 at that point. So it's a significant number. Some people will tell me they've applied to 20 and like be crying that they didn't get anything. I'm like, yeah, you only applied to 20, you know? And so I think when I had accepted my offer, I had up to that point gotten around 9 interview requests, and I had put in 60 applications. I had also, I did of course put in applications to government jobs and like other things like that, but that's not what we're talking about in this video. But you should not only be applying to big law jobs, especially if you're a 1L. So I did put in all those other applications, and actually one of those government job applications that I put in, I ended up getting, and then turned it into instead a fall externship with the Department of Justice. So so that was my 1L year. And in my 1L year, it came down to my 2 firms I was just really torn between. Ended up going with one. Oh, the other piece, right? So because I just mentioned, you know, I was getting these interviews before my grades came out. One of the firms that I interviewed with was a prominent DC firm. I mean, all these firms are prominent firms, but a prominent DC firm hadn't even started their interview process yet, and only interviewed me because an associate that I had networked with during all those networking events I just told you about and suggested that you do, pass along my resume to the hiring partner at the firm and told them that I had another offer. And so they called me in early to do an interview. Again, networking will get you into doors when your grades cannot, because my grades had not come out at that point. Okay. So obviously my grades came out and they were good, but I had all those interviews before my grades came out. So I really want to put emphasis on that. So that's my 1L. That's my 1L year. So 2L year, as you guys may or may not know, so your 2L year is typically where majority of people get their big law firm jobs, and that's the job they typically go to. What are they doing in a 2L year post law school? So a lot of law schools would do something called OCI, or they may call it something different. We called it OCI, which is on-campus interviews. So on-campus interviews happens the summer before your 2L year starts. I decided not to do OCI, but the reason I decided not to do OCI was because, similar to my 1L year, I got interviews at the only firms that I was interested in working at over the firm I had worked at my 1L year before OCI started. So does that make sense? Let me say it again and try to reword it. The firm that I worked at my 1L year was a very good firm. There was only a handful, literally only a handful of firms that I would have went to over that firm, and I interviewed at all of them before OCI started. How did you interview at all of them, Sephora? I just told you how. Networking and applying. And that's how I interviewed at all of them before OCI even happened. So I didn't do OCI because I didn't need to. So I interviewed at all of them, and ultimately that's how I got my second firm job for my 2L year. Was that same exact process that I had told you, right? The networking and applying early allowed me to get those jobs before OCI, so I didn't have to do it. However, I will say I always and typically recommend for all of my clients to do OCI for a variety of different reasons. I think my case was a slightly more exceptional case, but for most people, OCI is a very good thing, and it also gives you some negotiation power, and so I do suggest doing it. But I will possibly make another video on the details of networking, what it looks like, and how you should do it. If you'd be interested in that, leave a comment down below and let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys are interested in getting law school coaching, don't forget to visit toppingthecurve.com. I've got a workshop coming up where I'm going to be teaching you how to stand out in the law school admissions process, and I would love to have you either one-on-one in that workshop or in my group coaching community. Thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me at Topping the Curve, which is my law school coaching accounts on all other social media. Thank you so much for watching. And to end, a final introduction. I'm Sephora, licensed attorney, law school coach. I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.